Hi, my name is Teresa and I'm an intermediate designer for C3 and I'm going to be explaining you certain things you need to know before doing the tasks here in Greenery. This task is basically making a greenhouse, but what's a greenhouse? A greenhouse is a construction used for agricultural purposes, which means it allows the cultivation or protection of plants, and it must have a translucent cover that allows the pass of sunlight and sometimes above the rain. It must have a structure that can be metallic most of the times, but it can also be plastic or wood. And the objective of the greenhouse is to reproduce or simulate certain climate conditions for the growth and development of the cultivated plants established inside the greenhouse. It must have certain independence from the outside environment, which means you can put a heating system so you don't totally depend on the sunlight that it's outside, or you can put water system so you don't depend totally on the rain, among other systems. It must also have dimensions that make possible people to work inside. This one depends on how many plants you're going to get there, how many people are going to be there for maintenance. But you must always have a place for people to work and go out in case of an emergency. Now we're going to be talking about type of plants, types of greenhouse insulators, and the calculations you're probably gonna be making. Let's start with the types of plants. Inside of greenhouse, it's more probable that you find production of crops such as leaf, root, tuber, or fruit vegetables, because production under controlled environmental conditions contributes to the increase of the crops, which is really good for the community. But you can also find ornamental plants such as flowers that could increase the quantity of flowers sold, and that will bring money to the community. What does the plant need? In natural conditions, the plant will only need sunlight, water, land, and wind. But as we are talking about artificial conditions or human-produced conditions, as they are inside a greenhouse, beside the natural conditions, it must also have specific temperatures, fertilizers, and repellents. Now about the types of greenhouse. How does the greenhouse affect the plant? The shape of the greenhouse will affect from which side the plant receives sun, which will affect the internal temperature and will affect the quantity, quality, and type of plants that you can grow there. What a greenhouse must have. It must have a ventilation system. If you don't want to depend totally on the sunlight, or you want to always have a specific temperature inside the greenhouse, you must use a temperature system. And for security, you must have a power generation system. The energy is provided by the government, but in case that the government cuts the light for any reason, you must have a power generation system. So the other systems you have, such as the ventilation and temperature, doesn't turn off. Now, insulators. When we're talking about insulators, it's basically any material that keeps energy like heat from going through the wall of the greenhouse, like wood, plastic, rubber, and glass. Those are materials that can be on the wall. And this one is really useful when we are talking about keeping a high temperature to counteract the coldness of your location. So for example, at mountain that can have really cold winters, it's really important that it has a really good insulator to keep a higher temperature inside the greenhouse. Finally, about calculations. You must calculate at least the area of one of the walls. And the most common shapes are triangle, which is basically the base for the height of the triangle between two. About a trapezium is A plus B, where A and B are different sides. So A is side 1, B is side 2. And you're going to multiply this per the height of the trapezium and then divide it by 2. When we are talking about rectangles, is the width per the height, so one of the longer sides per the shorter side. When we are talking about squares, same thing as a rectangle, but it's only one side per the other side. And when we are talking about half circle, is pi, which is 3.1416 per the radius between two. That will be it. I hope you have a great C3 and good luck to you all.